Hi everyone, I'm Jake Erickson with the Climate Action Lab at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and this is Assessing Inequalities in Electrification via Heat Pumps Across the U.S. The motivation for this research largely comes from an interest in climate and energy justice. Prior research has shown that efforts to improve the energy efficiency or adoption of clean energy technology have largely failed to reach minoritized or disadvantaged community members, and we really want to understand if that applies to heat pump technology as well. So this research really focuses on understanding if there are racial and ethnic disparities in the adoption of heat pumps across the US, and if there is evidence of an injustice in the relative access of heat pump technology. For this, we use highly granular data on household heating technology, as well as the application of non-parametric and interesting simulation approaches to understand the injustice implications of these distributions. Now, for those of you that aren't familiar with what a heat pump is, it's basically an air conditioner that can run in reverse in the winter to provide heat. These are up to 400 times more efficient than standard heating technologies because they don't rely on burning anything, and therefore represent a valuable technology for building electrification. The data for this analysis came from a variety of sources, primarily the Zillow Z-Trax data, which provides household-level appliance information, as well as the tract-level data from the American Community Survey, climate data from NOAA, and utility price data from the Energy Information Administration and others. Now, our analysis begins with a household-level Logit regression at the national scale, where we predict the adoption of heat pumps based on various features of the household as well as racial characteristics and other factors of the local census tract. On the left, we see our sort of control variables, building age, extreme temperatures, electricity and gas prices. And on the right, we see those covariates for tract-level racial identities. What this shows us is that being in a census tract with a higher percentage of minority identities means that you as an individual are less likely to adopt a heat pump. This suggests that folks living in areas that are dominated by minorities may have less access to this technology than their white counterparts. To dissect this even further, we conduct a non-parametric analysis of the same data, looking at majority race census tracts with at least 50% of any one given racial identity. And we see distinctive patterns in the adoption of heat pumps over income as median income in that census tract increases. Notably, for the blue line representing white majority census tracts, we see sort of a peak of adoption at about $60,000 median income, tapering off at higher income levels. While for majority census tracts for Black communities, we see that adoption level keeps increasing as income increases. Now, to understand the justice implications of this, we introduce a relatively simple framework. If your identity positively predicts adoption of a heat pump in an area where it causes you net costs, or negatively predicts adoption of a heat pump in an area where it could give you a net benefit, this is evidence of shifting energy burdens from one group to another based on racial or ethnic identity, and is therefore a distributional injustice. To understand where these net benefits are taking place, we combine data on household energy demand with primary fuel use and fuel cost data and ran a Monte Carlo simulation. Counties that ended up having this net benefit 90% or more of the time were considered net benefit, green. Net costs more than 90% of the time were considered net costs, red, and everything in between was sort of neutral. You might notice the sort of correlation between these group boundaries and the primary fuel use in figure B across the country. We then simply reran our logistic regression within each of these three groups. Looking at the net benefits area, we notice that minority racial identity negatively correlates with the probability of heat pump adoption. This suggests that living in an area with higher percentages of minority community members may negatively predict your ability to access a technology that would actually give you net energy benefits. Meanwhile, on the net cost side, we notice that being Native American significantly predicts that you are going to adopt a technology that actually increases your energy burden. All of this is to say there is suggestive evidence of a real energy injustice taking place, shifting energy burdens from white communities onto racial minorities through the adoption patterns of heat pumps. So there is clear cause for concern. There's evidence that there's a racial disparity in the access to beneficial heat pumps across the country. There's also distinct patterns in the adoption and use of heat pumps between different racial groups that may drive heterogeneous outcomes from different policies and incentives in the future. So obviously, there's a need for further research to understand the causal pathways here and to better understand the future of decarbonization in America. Thank you.